Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Women Who AI Summit. Kelley Tenney here, the founder and host of this third summit. And today has been all about female pioneers leading AI innovation. And I could not be more honored to have Yifat Cohen here with us today, who I recently met at a Master of the Masters. Is that what we called it, right? AI meetup out in Texas. We took our garage photo, which I know is going to go down in history at some point. But what I learned about Yifat is just how much of an entrepreneur you actually are, and more impressively, like how long you've been in the technology space. Like you are not an early adopter. I feel like you are an OG of
Yeah, definitely.
technology, right? And AI. I know you run an engagement marketing business that helps entrepreneurs establish instant trust with their prospects. You've been in business for over 11 years. You've been invited to Google, right? You've flown all around the world to train teams and speak about technology and things like that. And I just want to know, first and foremost, how did you get into this technology space? Because we certainly know that historically it's a male dominated space, right? So how did you show up with your amazingness and kind of infiltrate that industry?
So when I first got off the boat in America, I'm not going to say how long ago it was, but it's been a while. It's been a moment. Before South by Southwest opened up in Austin, that's how long ago. I got a job as tech support at a tech support company. And I knew nothing, like nothing about computers. They're like, oh, don't worry about it. We'll teach you everything. And I'm like, okay. And then they put us on the phones. And, someone calls up and is like, hey, I got the blue screen of death. And I'm like, mute. What do I do? So I'm kind of like the person who jumps and then builds the airplane in the air. And I was like, I want to learn how to do these things, right? And how does it work? And so I built a computer and I learned how to build websites by code, like on Notepad. And that's how my son's dad actually hit on me. He's like, ooh, she's a nerd. Let me get her a hard drive and let me show her how to do these things. And I just fell in love with the technology and the ability to do stuff. And it evolved from there. Like I was part of startups, and then I graduated, and Google Plus opened up to 100 people in beta, and I was one of them. And I fell in love with the platform where everybody was like, "You don't need another Facebook thing," but I found my tribe because it was a group of geeks, right? And all we were doing all day long is geeking out over like, "Oh my god, what's I gonna do?" And so I became the G Plus go-to gal, and I just fell in love with technology. And I really realized that the purpose of technology is to, well, one of the guys, Simon Mentoring, that I interviewed, he's a branding expert. And he gave me his book and he dedicated it. And he said, your purpose is to use technology to scale intimacy so we can discover what connected hearts and mind can achieve. And I was like, yes, that's what we can do right now with AI. It's amazing.
I love that, right? So you and I know you're like a self-proclaimed like tech nerd, right? You love all things. How do you feel like all that, just that passion and that interest that you have in technology has allowed you to be innovative and kind of stay ahead of the curve?
So I think every time I look at tools, right, I think, so what? Right? Okay, so we can put up websites. So what? Right? So we can chat. So what? What can we do with it? And the purpose is always like, how do we use this to actually connect each other or to amplify our voice or to learn about things that we before never had access to. My thing, I used to be a journalist in my previous life. And so I'm very curious about stories and where people come from and why do they do the things they do. And before, when we were born, you had no way to do it unless you were a journalist or you were sitting somewhere around a campfire and talking to people. Right. And then in the Google Plus days, they came out with Hangouts on Air and you can just turn it on and people just jump in and talk to you. And you're like, wow, I'm meeting someone from Australia. Show me the outside and let me see what it looks like. Right. So we're always looking at like, what can technology do for us that we can't do without it? And I think that's really the spark that makes me geek out over these things. Like, oh my God, look what you can do.
I love that. And with that, I know that along those same lines, looking at like what can technology do for us, right? Like what, how is it solving our problems? And I think part of that technology piece and looking at what it can do for us is recognizing that technology and AI really has the power to be something that's completely transformative in our lives, right? And I think there's a lot of people out there recognizing that the ability to have that transformation, wanting to stay innovative. And there's also a lot of people that are maybe they've just stepped into the AI space or, they're listening to all of the noise and they're kind of in that like, let's use chat GPT, let's create content, right? We're coming out of this space of like, everybody's a prompt master. People are buying everybody else's prompts for $47, right? This, that, and the other thing. And I know you talk about something that you refer to as generic regurgitation, right? And recognizing that that is something that is going to move us away from that transformation and that innovation. So, can you speak a little bit to what you mean when you talk about generic regurgitation?
Yeah. So it's always fascinating to me that, okay, let's take it in reverse. The way that I look at AI is I think about it like Star Trek, right? We're all on the spaceship and we're going like, computer, calculate the 5 ways that we can get from here to there. So computer spits out data. And then the captain goes like, with my knowledge and my expertise and my understanding of where we're going to go and all the dangers and all that stuff, I can look at the data and analyze it and put meaning into it. I was like, if I go this way, that's what's going to happen. If I go that way, that's what's going to happen. So with my knowledge and my expertise, I can look at this and be like, bad, 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 good. Let me do that. When someone inexperienced with marketing or with sales or with messaging or with psychology or with branding or with course creation, right? Or with SEO articles comes to ChatGPT and says, give me an SEO article. And ChatGPT just goes like, "Whoa," and they take that and put it on the web. Do you know how to look at what ChatGPT just spat out and be like, yeah, that's actually something. A, I can put my name behind. B, there's no mistakes. It's not hallucinating. It didn't make up anything. This is actually the schema that needs to go in. Like, do you have a way to look at what it gives you and put meaning into it and analyze it and say, that's good, that's bad. This is a good hook. This is a bad hook. This is persuasive. This is not persuasive. This sounds like AI wrote it. This doesn't sound like AI wrote it. And the problem is now that we're flooding the internet with the same exact thing. Like my assistant just gave me like, look at these prompts. And I'm like, here's the problem. 2,600 people like that thing. If those same 2,600 people took that same exact prompt, want the same exact thing, they're all going to get exactly the same similar stuff that's just been put out there. So who are you as the expert, as the person with the experience that go like, right, wrong, yes, no? Where's the human element in that? There's no expertise. There's no wisdom. There's nothing in it except text, right? And so it doesn't serve the purpose of what you're doing with content. You might as well just go to whatever company, they'll put random images on your Facebook feed. You'll pay them $500 a month and nothing's going to happen because you're not there. There's no humanity. There's no wisdom. There's no connection. There's nothing. Yeah. So if everybody just goes to ChatGPT, puts the information out there, gets the same results out, similar result because you're looking at different things, it doesn't serve the purpose that you're hoping that it will serve. And really, I think that's the downfall, like the assumption that anyone can use it. Yeah, but.
So let me ask you this, right? So maybe we have some people that are tuning into this session and they're like, whoops, that's kind of just what I've been doing. Like if you could tell people like, okay, these are the top 3 things that you want to ask yourself when you create content to ensure that you are not producing that generic content as everybody else. What do you think, what are the top things people should be looking at or kind of, what are some benchmarks people should be having so that they can make sure that they're not accidentally spitting out this generic content?
So the first thing I would look at is, again, we're starting from the beginning. What is the purpose of it, right? Like if you're putting content out there, what would you like it to do for you? Do you like it to build visibility to some of your insights? share your insights, right? Maybe ChatGPT can check your grammar or say it in a better way or simplify it. But it has to be your insight, your ideas, right? So if you're not going to say anything that ChatGPT spit out in a dinner table and claim this is your own opinion, don't put it out online, right? So the first thing is like, what do I want to be? What is it that I want to be doing online? Brand building, relationship building, selling something, getting, what is it, right? And then once you know what it is, then what do I need to do to get there? Do I need to put my insight? Is there any value? Can I teach anything? Can I showcase stuff that I've done? It's exactly the same thing as we've been doing before. ChatGPT just speeds it up, right? It just helps you make things faster. So if it took you 5 days to write an article before, now you can come in with your insights and be like, okay, this is what I would be saying. Help me format it in a way that actually is consumable. Make it funnier. Tell a joke here. Bring me an anecdote. Maybe do some research about that stuff. All the stuff that you would be doing before to actually write your article, it only speeds it up, but it can't replace you. Because if it replaces you, then who are you? Then there's no added value to what you bring to the table, right? And you are bringing stuff to the table. So bring that stuff to the table and use ChatGPT to actually just help speed up the production of these things. Or AI or Gemini or all the other, all the other tools that help you speed up production.
I love that because I think that is something that people, like a lot of people are missing, or let me just say, maybe newer users of AI aren't recognizing exactly what you're talking about. Yes, it's a powerful tool to save us time. And what was that human process or routine that you were going through before? Why would you skip that just because you've got ChatGPT, right? So if I am someone, for example, I write a blog and I'm always like, oh, I love to find quotes from, experts that, have to do with the theme or something that I'm talking about. Why would I all of a sudden not include that because I have ChatGPT, right? Or if I'm like, oh, I love to tell a story about like my children. There's always something with my kids that's, I talk about is why that's relatable. Why would I skip that personal story just because now ChatGPT is writing my content? And I think we forget, right? And something that we've talked a lot about on a lot of these sessions is how many people are using AI. They're looking for AI tools. They're using ChatGPT because they know it can speed up that process. But then we are leaving behind that process that made it ours, right? Like our own signature way of approaching things. So I think that's such a good reminder because I think we forget that there is a human element that we all bring, right? Your human element is different than mine. If we were going to write a blog, we'd both approach it differently. And that's what makes it special. And we forget to include that with tools like ChatGPT, right?
Yeah. The other way that you can use it is actually debate with yourself, right? So sometimes you can put up an opinion and ask ChatGPT, like, okay, give me a counter argument. And then it will make your article much better because there are things you're like, oh, yeah, I have to talk about that stuff. And now you can bring up points that people might bring in, right? You can use it as kind of like a coach, editor or so, but you have to start with something that's yours. You have to have the human spark in there. Without it, it's just like what's going to happen in a year or two, and it's happening faster and faster. So I don't know, maybe 6 months. But what's going to happen is that people now assume that everything online is AI and fake, right? We're just assuming like we just don't know. And we don't take the time to dig in because who has the time? We have a business and we have children. So we dismiss everything that we see online. It's like, I'll look into it later. It sounds conspiracy. It doesn't look right. And so what's going to happen is if you're going to just use AI to build your brand and everything, you're not going to build that human connection and trust. And people will not trust you and they won't refer to you because they'll be like, I don't know if she knows what she's saying or if she just like went to ChatGPT and she regurgitated what ChatGPT says and now she sounds so smart and, all connected to all these other things. But I don't know if she even, she's been where I've been. She knows what I'm going through. She understands all that stuff. So let me talk to someone who actually is human and gets me and connects with me and all that stuff. So two things I think is going to happen. One, we're going to find these people that they are our go-to person. I trust my tech stuff to this person. If they tell me it's right, I believe them. I go to that guy for politics. I go to that person for literature, right? You'll have this network of people that you trust because you build this kind of like connection with them, or it sounds right, or they're in your thing. So that's number one. Number two is like, we're going to be in communities. We're going to be like, no, these are my peeps, right? They get me. We understand each other. I talk to them. I know who they are for reals, not as avatars on the Twitters. And I build a relationship with them. So that's my group. And we're going to seek these communities that kind of help us figure out, is it real? Is it not real? Are they lying to us or they're telling the truth? Where do I belong? Who do I feel safe? So we have this buffer as people who want to become the leaders and make an impact on all that stuff to build that expertise of us, not of regurgitating ChatGPT, right? We have this time to build ourselves as the go-to person because we're authentic and real, and build communities around us where we support people and we can make a real impact. AI can help, but it can't replace, right? And I think that's the thing where people are going like, oh, I'll just give everything to AI and it'll do all that stuff for me. Good luck with that, because everybody else is doing exactly the same thing.
I love it. And that's part of why we created this Women Who AI community, right? It's just recognizing that there's a lot of noise out there. And I think for women sometimes, and I'll speak for myself, but I know this comes up with a lot of our community members, it's intimidating to raise your hand in a male-dominated group and say, like, does this seem authentic? Or, right, like when or how do I do this? Or just like that question, like, I am maybe regurgitating information and I didn't think about it. Like, how do I be more authentic? I think there's a lot of containers where women wouldn't feel comfortable going in and asking that question, right? And so that's really where we've built this summit and want to bring in experts like you, because there is not just these are experts that we can trust, but also recognizing this might feel like a safer space for women who are stepping into AI to be able to ask those questions and be a little bit more vulnerable, if you will, and transparent about some of the things that they're coming across. Now, you've spoken a lot about time, right? Like we've talked a lot about recognizing that AI can speed things up. A lot of people are giving the things to AI to like get it done. And one of the common themes that always seems to come up on the summits, and I don't know if it's because it's just part of the conversation that women have or whatever it is recognizing that, like, one, what woman does not want to save more time?
Right.
Right? Like we have
Human. Yeah.
human, but I think women, I feel like we play a lot more roles. So in my household, I am a businesswoman, but I'm also the mom and I'm a wife and I'm also the maid and I'm the chef and I'm like the personal shopper, right? So there's just like a lot of hats that we wear. And so why wouldn't we want to leverage AI and save more time? But we've been kind of talking about and admitting that many women, when they have that free time, we just fill it with more things to do, right? And it's like, great, I saved myself an hour. Well, now I'm going to go do laundry, right? Or now I can clean all the kids' rooms because I have that hour. And we aren't actually using that time to like fill our own cups.
Yeah.
And when we're talking about innovation, I really think part of the challenge that a lot of people have with tapping into that innovation and creativity is that we fill up our times with more like mundane tasks and not things that might actually spark that innovation, right? So can you speak to that? Because again, I know like when it comes to innovation and thinking outside the box, you are that person. Like, and for anybody who doesn't know this, we are in this WhatsApp chat together and Yifat will ask a question and I'm like, like the questions that you ask are just, I can tell that you tap in on a different level than a lot of people do. And so where do you think that comes in when it comes to having more time, where we spend our time and things like that?
Yeah. So my birthday was on Valentine's Day and I organized the whole day just around a few of my favorite things. Right. And so I went to the gym, the maid came in. I was like, oh my God. what a gift. What a birthday gift. And I took my book and I went to a favorite restaurant and I just sat down and had breakfast and had coffee and read my book. And I was like, wow, that is luxury, right? The ability to just sit and read and think and look at everything that's happening around and let your mind wander and listen to other people's conversation. And that spark idea. I was like, that is really what all these rich people, when you look at them and they're like, oh, I'm Warren Buffett. What do you do? I read. Right? How many people can go like, get off the hamster wheel, get a book, get an audiobook, go for a walk, sit around, listen to music, have some coffee with friends, and let your mind wander. We don't do that because we got into this like, gotta do, right? And it starts with the mindset of like, I don't have to race. Like, I keep telling myself this. It's like, we're all racing to the grave, to the tombstone, right? It's like, when we get there, and we're all going to get there, the only thing that we're going to have is the experiences along the way. That's it, right? Like, we can't take anything else. It's the relationship and the experiences that we have along the way. The sad part is we don't know when we're going to get there. We might get there tomorrow, God forbid, right? Car accident, whatever. We don't know. No idea. So all we have is like this time that we're like, okay, what do I do between now and that dot? Mm-hmm. And sadly, so many of us are stuck in our inbox. And I read it somewhere with like, when you die, you're still going to have 1,000 unanswered emails, right? It's not like you're going to be able to ever finish that. It's still going to be there. And, so is that really the important thing? I think what we need to do is adjust where we think we're going, adjust where we are right now, and realize that where we are right now is just fine. And the race doesn't have to be ongoing 24/7. We can take a breath, right? And we can relax. And so, being the women that we are and the schedulers that we are and the planners that we are, plan this time in your calendar if you can, right? And just be like, listen, this is my gym time. And I just go and I walk and I think. This is my social time. I meet with my girlfriends and we have a chat and we just talk about it. And there's no goal or outcome or anything that we need to get out of it except the joy of being with our friends and chit-chatting and venting and that stuff. And that's recharging our batteries and going away, right? And so we're not taught what is it, that thing that will recharge our batteries. I know you run marathons. So for you, that's probably your zone of genius where you're running and ideas are coming out. And but how many people do that? They're going like, dude, I don't have 2 hours to run right now. Yeah. Right? They're not making the time. We all have the time. Push Netflix away. Nobody needs Netflix, right? Like, get rid of the stuff that like just waste time and figure out what is it that charges my batteries. Massage, coffee with friends, reading a book, going for a run. What is it? And then be so selfish that you take the time for yourself and you go like, this is me, for me, so I can give to you, right? And if AI can do that for us, which it can, I just worked with a lady, and after showing her this one tool, she goes like, oh my God, I can finish my entire work in one day, and now I have the entire week, and I don't know what to do with it. Let me go get more clients. Go get more clients, girl. Right? Yeah. And so that's the thing. Like, AI will free your time. Now you have to be deliberate about this and go like, this is my tribe. I'm going to sit down and hang out with my tribe so I can get the ideas and I can think about new things and I can get excited about what's coming. Because if not, what am I doing here? Right?
I love that so much. I think it's so true. And I think we just get caught. I think there's two things. I think we get caught, like you said, in this like hustle, right? And it really hit me when you said like, we're going to die with an inbox full of emails. Like, there's never going to be a time where it's done, where it's complete. Okay. And that is like, it's so true, because it's just like, we think we're catching up, but like, what happens when I clear 100 emails out of my inbox? I'm going to wake up with 80 more, right? Like, it's just never ending. So what is the rush? Right. And I love that. The other thing that that came up when you were talking was when we think about innovation, right? When we think about like, how can I use AI to solve something that's slowing me down or to solve a problem or to help me free up more time? I'm not even sure how many of us realize that there are things that AI can do for us because we actually haven't taken that quiet time to sit down and even
Right.
ask ourselves, what do we need it to do for us?
Right.
Right? So if I'm just stuck in the rat race and I'm doing what everybody else is doing with AI, what am I missing in my own life if I'm just like, and somebody said this, somebody was talking about how another one of our sessions was talking about how she uses Chat GPT to figure out what to make for dinner. Right. And I'm like, okay, that's like the one problem I literally cannot solve on a daily basis is like what to make for dinner. And she's like, I have chicken, pasta, broccoli, and spaghetti sauce. Like, help me make something for dinner. And I was like, why didn't I think of that? Like, it's my biggest problem.
Yeah.
100% that question is the one I dread every day. Mom, what are you making for dinner? And I can't tell you how much time I spend actually trying to figure out what to make for dinner. And I'm like, I didn't even think about that, but it's because I think of what you're talking about. I don't give myself the time to just sit
Yeah.
and talk to someone like you where there's no business outcome, there's no reason, we're just chit-chatting
Yeah.
to be able to even be creative or to be like, "Oh my gosh, I should try this. Why didn't I even think about that?" Right? And so I think that's so important with what you're talking about, like just and being very intentional with if I'm going to use Chat GPT and it's going to save me 2 hours.
I think we don't think about all the things, so what my coach always says, you can't see your own headlights.
Mm,
Right? Like you have to have someone from the outside going like, dude, you're shining so bright. And you're like, really? Yeah, turn them off. Good idea. Like you can't see your own headlights. And because we can't, we're looking at the world from our own perspective. If I'm a marketer and all I see is the marketing thing,
mm,
right? And that's all I'm thinking about. And then here comes the salesperson goes like, wait, we can, oh, wow, there's another thing there. So first, don't blame yourself because you're probably thinking about like, I'm only using it for my work. Okay. And my stuff. And then she comes in and she goes like, well, I'm not using it for work. So let me do it for, these other things that I can do. The other thing, like I think we're used to it being, kind of like in a browser or an app. So it's not necessarily integrated in our life yet. But think about like when it's gonna be integrated, when it's like your computer is talking to your refrigerator, to the grocery store, to the TV, right? Someone was talking about back then in the Google Plus days. What if what if advertisers, like, now they can send smell through the speakers and stuff like there's a machine that can send smell, right? So imagine you wake up in the morning and you smell the coffee. You actually smell it, not because there's coffee, because the
right.
advertisers now, and now it's lunchtime, and the advertisers are putting a smell of pizza in the
Yeah.
stuff, right? And they're affecting you with smells and sights and all that stuff. So on one hand, woo, convenient, like, no, they decide for me, it shows up in the door, the advertiser paid for it, yay, awesome. On the other side, it's like, wait, do I want to eat pizza? It's like,
Right.
right? Like all that stuff. So when everything is going to be talking to each other, it's going to be super convenient. We won't be having to think about all these things of like what's for dinner and who's going to fold the clothes and who's going to do all that stuff. What are we going to be thinking about?
Mhm.
Right. And I think what's going to happen, which will be beautiful, is that people will realize I do this because I love to do it, not because I have to put content out there, not because I have to record videos and I have to write. I write because I enjoy writing. Like Seth Godin, I think he's been writing a blog post every day for 20 years because
Mhm.
he loves it. Right. And imagine the content that we're going to get when people love to talk and do art and converse and like how beautiful would that be?
Yeah.
Right now it's kind of like I have to, I have to, I have to, I have to. And if you
Uh,
step back, what do I want to do? And that's my hope for humanity is that it will kind of free up all the mundane assembly line tasks that we couldn't care less about, right? And our creativity and our humanity and our imagination and all that stuff that will bring, will come to life because well, what am I going to do? Like COVID days, right? Like during COVID, all our marketers online were like, yeah, come on, right? And some of these people making millions of dollars, quadrupling their business in like a month because they know how to use technology. Everybody else was baking bread or singing in the balconies,
Yeah.
right? But that's what they enjoy doing. They're like, oh, let me take out baking. I'm like, wouldn't that be great if you can just do the stuff that you love when you want to do it?
Well, and what I love about that, like, I think this is just such like a perfect spot to close because I think when we think about AI and machine learning, what you're talking about is the very thing that people are afraid is going to disappear because like we're all using computers, right? And instead, like you're bringing, which is why I love you, like why you're just such an innovative thinker. It's like everybody's like, oh, the computers are going to take over, the machines are going to run the world, and you are like, okay, what if we harnessed the machines and the computers so that there's actually more art, more poetry, more love, more harmony, more music in the world
Yeah.
because we're not using machines to like take us over. So this world is generic regurgitation and everyone's like robots,
Yeah.
but we're actually harnessing it in a way that allows us to create more love and beauty, right? And in creativity, because the machines are doing the things that we no longer are stuck doing so that we can be free to like write and read poetry, right? Like, I just think that's such a beauty. You were talking about that. I was like, what a beautiful scene to have that in my mind when when most people are talking about that very opposite thing happening because we're using AI, right? And I think
Yeah.
that's just such a great way to shift that whole mindset around, how we're all going to turn into this like, conveyor belt doing the same things because we're all using AI. Like, what if we used it so that we could put more time back into creating beautiful things in life?
Like, how amazing would that be if you had the time to hang out with your tribe online and in real life, right? Without worrying about the laundry and the cooking and the right? Like, how amazing would that be? And what creation would we create? And how belonged will we feel for each other so that we can stop with all the hate online, right? Because now we feel like we are understood and we're connected and
Wow.
people get us and we're part of something and together we're doing this whole thing. And it doesn't matter if there is a community, there'll be community for horses and poker and gardening and whatever, right? And everybody will find a little connection thing. So technology allows us to do that across
Mhm.
geographical barriers, right? But instead, what we're doing is like,
Yeah.
they get the shot, don't get the shot, get the mask, don't
Yeah.
get the mask.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So my hope is a utopian world where, we're Star Trekking across the universe because the basics are done and everything is fine and we have the time to explore our gifts. And I think AI will get us there. Elon Musk actually said that once AGI takes over, we'll get to the age of abundance. So here's to hoping.
I love that. I love that. Such a beautiful way to end this session. Thank you so much for just being the kind of thinker that you are, for like leading. Yeah, I think you're really just this pillar when it comes to females who have been in technology for so long, who've kind of fared in that male dominated world. And, your message that you bring and the way you, I think, approach using technology and AI is so refreshing and it's so beautiful. And I think it's very much in alignment with what a lot of us want, right? We just don't, it's just that shift in mindset that you've so like beautifully brought to us. So thank you for your time today.
Thanks for having me. It's been
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah. Thank you. And thanks everybody for joining this session. We will see you inside the next Women Who AI session. Take care.